Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like this video and answer the question in the comments below. Do you think that Lincoln Kienholz has a real opportunity to win the starting job at Ohio State over Julian Sayin, who, by the way, we should mention, was the backup on the depth chart for the Buckeyes in 2024? Now, I think the thing that people might say is, he didn't really play that much, and he didn't. Like, he appeared in 4 games, and I think he threw the ball 12 times. He's also a redshirt freshman. Whereas Lincoln Kienholz is a sophomore who got meaningful snaps against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl because he had to. Devin Brown goes down. Can't really be expected to move with the ball. Lincoln Kienholz is trying to hold this thing together. But the thing that I think Lincoln Kienholz has that Julian Sayin doesn't is size and athleticism. One of the things that goes underreported is that he is every bit of 6'3", 215. For perspective, Arch Manning at Texas is 6'4", 220. And Lincoln Kienholz can move. But is he the passer that Julian Sayin is at 6'1", 205-ish? Put on a little weight since he got to Ohio State from Carlsbad by way of Alabama. So as we're discussing these things, I wonder what it is that Ryan Day is thinking about. And we got to hear, he said, look, we have good pieces around them. So they just have to make the routine plays routinely and have command of the offense and make great decisions. That is, be a good point guard for this team. That is, be the guy that doesn't make mistakes. Don't get in your own way. Don't make this stuff that is supposed to be easy look difficult. And I think that is much harder to do than it is to say. It is really difficult to say, hey, be the last guy to break and then, hit the corner. Some of this is about innate ability. And I think Ryan Day, he has that in Julian Sayin, and in some respects to Lincoln Kienholz, but you can have leaps. You can have guys that make leaps. You can have guys that somehow put it all together. Usually, though, that happens after a tremendous amount of reps. It doesn't usually happen because you're in the film room or because you've been doing your individuals. It happens because you've been in game time situations often enough to know what to expect. I think of it in terms of how we learn large language models. I think of it in terms of how we learn the patterns that lead to us mastering an activity. For those of y'all that follow me on the Instagram, one of my side quests now is like cycling. And I say cycling and not bike riding because there is a difference. And as much as I don't want to be pretentious and give anybody the wrong idea here, because I really don't. I'm brand new to this. I go from riding a fixed gear to, getting on a bike with gears. And I'm used to mashing up hills. I'm not used to gearing down and feeling like a dumbass doing this real fast. But what you're doing is you're saving your energy and your lungs for the downhill so that you can continue to shift up and gain tremendous amounts of speed and gain speed over time, which for me is a lot like racing. My body is still learning to do this. It is really difficult for my body, which is now at this point in my life, built to run, sub 20-minute 5Ks into the kind that can just eat bike miles, because I feel like Bambi with a turbocharger on ice, right? I'm still getting used to the machine underneath me and what I can be expected to do on it. But it's weird to know that I have the lungs and the heart and the legs to get it in. Like, I'm not tired the next day after 20, 30, 40-mile ride. What I am is pissed because there are little things here and there that, as they say, just takes time in the seat. You got to be on the bike. You got to be on the bike for however long you got to be on the bike. And eventually, over time, little things will fall into place. And then your talent gets to take over. Lincoln Kienholz hasn't got enough seat time to be expected to play at what I think his potential shows. Julian Sayin perhaps is a little bit further ahead, but not because he's been playing at Ohio State, but because he's got more innate natural ability. There are things that where I'm learning how to, say, ride this bike. It's funny. I'm learning to ride a bike again. There are things that his body can just do. The last example I'm going to give for this, because I think this is the one that most people are going to get, is Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Ben Affleck. when Matt Damon's character, Will Hunting, is talking to his girlfriend, played by Minnie Driver, and he says, you know, somebody can sit down at a piano. What do you see? And she says, I see chopsticks, right? He said, well, when I sit down at a piano, I can just play. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you that I spent all this time learning to do it, but I can just play. That's where Julian Sayin is. And I'm not sure that Lincoln Kienholz sits down and sees chopsticks, but I don't think he sits down there and starts playing Chopin, to put that as cleanly as I can. So as they're going through camp, are they going to have a starter? I feel like that's going to be it, right? Ryan Day wants to have a guy that everybody knows going into game week against Texas. Because if you go in there with two guys, it's not necessarily indicative of a strong quarterback room. That's what it is. It's not that you got two guys that are just as good, because I don't think that's true. I think coaches are lying to us when they tell us this. It's that you don't have a guy. We saw this last year in Michigan. You don't have a guy, you're screwed. That means that neither one of these dudes could separate, which means they're both still learning on the job. And you got to go with the guy that gives you the best upside given the kind of offense that you're running, which usually means you're going to go with the dude that can take care of himself, meaning that when the rush gets there, he makes something happen and gets rid of the football. Those are the things that are going to let these guys separate. I think Julian Sayin has a few more of them. And if you hear the players that have played with him, gone through practice with him, there is a clear separation in their minds. And I think giving Lincoln Kienholz the opportunity to have a eureka moment during camp and maybe surprise some people is really cool. And it's also a message you get to give the rest of the team. But let's not be coy about this. There's a 5-star that was committed to play for Nick Saban in Alabama that fell into your lap, that sat a year behind the guy that led you to the national championship. And that guy says, I think they got a really good one. If nothing else, it reminds me of the way Baker Mayfield was talking about Kyler Murray. When Baker was setting all these records, the one thing he kept telling anybody that would listen is, Kyler's going to break them all. You guys have no idea just what's coming. And we thought we did, but we didn't. You know, like the Orange Bowl went the way it did against Alabama, and Oklahoma got destroyed. But I remember Kyler Murray passing for 300 and rushing for 100 against a defense led by Quentin Williams, going, all right, that man is different. Let's see what happens if you can get him the kind of support that he deserves, Arizona. We come back. Let's have a discussion about DeAndre Moore and how he wants to leave Texas as the best wide receiver to ever do it.